Hey there, my name's Steve Bentley. I'm an Ironman Performance Coach. I've been doing that for 28 years and I've helped people race and compete in over 1,400 Ironman events around the world and thousands of shorter distance races, from running races to triathlons to cycling races. I've got a lot of experience working with athletes and helping them dramatically improve their performance in terms of endurance events. And one of the biggest things that I find, especially the longer the race gets, is the importance of fueling and how important that is. A lot of people think about it as nutrition, but actually, when you're actually in the event, it's not nutrition, it's actually fueling. And I learned a long time ago from racing in Hawaii and coaching some really high-level athletes that what you really want to break it down to is just three components: salt, sugar, and water. And if you try and mix those things together, it really limits your ability to process things and adjust them on the go. So what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today is just what happens when you don't do that right, and then how to fix it. So if you've ever been in an environment like an Ironman or half Ironman or a marathon, usually it's those longer events where you've been out there for hours and you're fueling, you're bringing in your water, you're bringing in your fuel source, you're bringing in your electrolytes hopefully, and your stomach starts getting really bloated and it starts feeling really sloshy. The big thing that a lot of people do is they think, oh, I'm drinking too much water. So they cut back on their water and they try and eat more. It's actually the opposite issue. What you're doing is your concentration of carbohydrates is too high in your system, your stomach's shutting down. You're pumping too much stuff into it, you're diluting things too much in terms of digesting, but your concentration of carbohydrates usually is too high and your stomach's not able to pass things through. The issue happens because all that blood that's normally around your stomach to be able to help in digestion, it's now in your legs, usually on the bike and the run, and it's not available for as much for your stomach to use that to process out the things that you want to do. So what happens is you get bloated, you get really sick feeling, you want to throw up but you can't. Things start slowing down because your body's not passing stuff into your intestines, so you're not able to absorb water, you're not bringing in electrolytes that are getting absorbed, and you're not getting the fuel that your body needs. So a couple things to do. Number one, break things up into different categories. So I would never use a mixture that is water, fuel, and electrolytes. And there's a lot of brand names out there. If you're using something that's working for you, that's great. It's working in that situation, but there's a really good chance you're gonna run into a situation in the future where the environment or the conditions are just so much different than what you're used to, and you can't adjust because you're stuck with this one mixture. If you've got water bottles full of just water on the bike, and if you've got a fuel source, I'm going to show you some examples here in a minute, that you can add in or take away or not use as much, and the same thing with the electrolytes, then you're much more adaptable. So the other thing that you want to do is figure out what's your lower limit, what's the minimum amount that you need to get into your system every hour, for example, to give your body what it needs on an ongoing basis to maintain the pace that you want. What's the minimum amount that you need? And you want to figure that out for hydration, you want to figure that out for electrolytes, and you want to figure that out for fuel. Then you want to figure out what's the maximum amount that my body can handle. What can I pack in before I start getting that sick feeling? And then you want to be able to go somewhere in the middle. So you're going to have a lower limit of what your body needs, you're going to have an upper limit of the maximum that you can handle, and you're just going to place yourself somewhere in the middle on that day. Because there's only three things you can control during a race like an Ironman. There's your pace, your fueling, and your mental attitude towards the day. Everything else you can't control. You can prepare for it, but you can't control it. So really focus on the three things that you can control. And fueling is huge, because if you don't get your fueling right, your pace is going to be messed up. And if your fueling's off, it's really hard to stay mentally focused and positive and on track. So going forward, here's what I did that worked really well for me, and I've changed that over the years based on new technology that's come out for fueling and food and systems for accessing fat for fuel. But number one, I'm going to go through about 1 liter of water an hour, and I'm going to be drinking that in regularly. I don't want to drink it too often, because if I'm drinking too much, like a little bit all the time, I'm just constantly diluting what's in my stomach. I want to give it a chance to actually get processed in there. I want that stomach acid to get in there and work on the fuel and the electrolytes that I've got in my system. So I'm going to bring water in, but I'm going to try and bring these things in about every 15 minutes or so. If you do it too often, and you got to try what works for you, but if you do it too often, it's going to kind of mess you up. So for me, it's about 1 liter an hour. Obviously, I'm closer to 1 liter. If it's really hot, if it's cooler, I'm not going to try and jam too much in, but you're going to practice that over different training conditions. So on different race days, you're going to know what to do. The big problem a lot of people do is they save their fueling strategy for much closer to the race, and they haven't gone through enough days of training to really effectively know what their body's going to handle. And they're also not giving their body the optimal fuel to perform properly in their training, so they're not getting as much out of the training as they could. And there's other posts that I put up and will put up about recovery and how to maximize that. Okay, so we got water. Electrolytes for me, I was always trying to get in about 1,000 milligrams of sodium an hour. That's me. I'm going pretty hard. My Ironman PB is 9:21. Half Ironman PB is 4:11. So I'm working really hard out there. So I need a certain amount in my body. There's two things that I would use. One of them is any kind of a salt capsule. It's just like a little vegetable capsule. I got salt sticks here. I've used Succeed capsules, Thermalite capsules. Just you're going to get those in. I'm going to pull one of those into my system every 20 or 30 minutes through the day, because that's a good way to get a high amount of electrolytes into my system. And this isn't just sodium chloride. It's also potassium, magnesium, and calcium in there as well. So that's a great product. Vitamin D in there as well. I've seen some with ginger and vitamin B in it as well. Those are great. Ginger is great for settling your stomach. And then another product that I use to get a really quick hit of electrolytes into my system is base electrolyte salt. This works really well. It comes in these little shaker capsules. So I'm going to put this in my cycling shorts or my tri shorts or whatever. You're going to stick that somewhere. You just pop open the lid, lick your thumb, put it over the end, shake it so you get a little coating of salt on your thumb. Lick that. I put it under my tongue to get maximum absorption into my system. Drink some water and I'm good to go. So that's the electrolytes. So you want to practice and test out what's the minimum amount that you need to maintain the pace that you're going to do under different conditions, and what's the maximum amount before you start feeling sick. And there's going to be a big window, so you're going to be able to place yourself in there somewhere. Then the third component is the fueling, and this is what really messes so many people up. I've written other blog posts on my website. You can slide up here and you can find that website link. It's bentleycoaching.com. And there's some articles in there that I've written about accessing fat for fuel. That's a big thing these days, fat adaptation, but there's a lot of different tricky ways of doing it and building it into your training. Initially though, and you might be there right now, I would be much more carbohydrate focused. So I would use things like gels. I used to be sponsored by Power Bar, and so I would just get boxes of gels. I eventually got sick of that. This is more of a protein infused branched chain amino acid gel. There's other gels out there. This is just straight maple syrup. There's a lot of different gels that you can get access to, but that's basically just sugar that's shooting into your system, and you're going to need a lot of it. And the more you pump in to try and fuel your body, because there's this calculation, you're going to run out of fuel at some point in time. The longer you're out there, you want to get enough fuel in. But the more you try and jam in, the more likely your stomach is to shut down, so that you're going to have issues when you get onto the run. And that's what happens to most people. So the more fuel that you can access from fat by getting more fat adapted, by doing some training through fasting days and do fasted training and things like that, where you can access fat more effectively as a fuel source, you're going to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you're going to burn. So you're going to reduce that glycogen draw from your muscles and liver and require less fuel coming in. So now what I typically have people do is I use this product here called UCAN. Way less fuel. My wife Michelle, for example, she used to try and get in about 280 to almost 300 calories an hour of gels. Never worked for her on the run. She would always have her stomach shut down. Here she's using about 60 calories an hour of UCAN, so way less. Never any digestive issues. Stomach's never shutting down. Always working really good for her. So that's really what you want to try and do, is figure out what's that little window that you can get in there. And that's the biggest thing that you want to make sure that you're dialing into. It's different for everybody depending on how adapted you are to burning fat. You might need more of this, right? Start off with a couple scoops, an hour and a half or 2 hours before your workout or your race. Get that into your system, and then every half an hour or so through the race, you're going to use that. So anyways, that's some great strategies that'll work extremely well. You got to practice it, but that's the number one thing that I find holds people back from their maximum performance during an actual race. Isn't their physical ability, because they're trained, hopefully they're ready to rock and roll. It's the fueling or the lack of proper fueling through the race that's really going to hold them back. So if you want more information, slide up, you'll be able to access my website, bentleycoaching.com. Feel free to go there, shoot me an email or some contact information there. I love to connect with people and help them get better at what they do. I always do a free 20-minute consultation, so if you're interested in asking me some questions and running through some things that you're doing now, seeing if they work or things that we can tweak, or even talking a little bit about your training, I'm happy to help you with that. I love helping people get better performance and being efficient. That year I went 9:21 in Ironman. I trained an average of 13 and a half hours a week. Biggest week I had was 18 hours. So you don't have to do a ton of training if you're doing the right thing and you get the right things dialed in to support your performance. So hopefully that was useful information. Once again, this is Steve Bentley from Bentley Coaching. Hopefully you had a little bit of information there that's useful for you, and have a great day. Cheers.